I'm Matt with eTrailer. If you're looking for something that's just going to offer you a little bit more protection on the back of your 2022 Toyota Tacoma, then the eTrailer Quad Hard Fold-up Tonneau cover is going to be a great option for you. So let's check it out. So this is going to be perfect if you're looking for just a little bit more security in the back of your bed for maybe when you are hauling any of your tools, or if you have anything back here that you don't want anyone coming by and just taking. And if you are looking for just a little bit more protection from the elements, you don't want anything you have back here getting rained on directly, this is also going to help out with that. Like I said earlier, this is going to be a hard tonneau cover. And there's really going to be two main types of tonneau covers. You're going to have your hard and your soft ones. Your soft ones are great just to keep any of the elements away from the interior of your bed to prevent any rain damage from occurring. But they're not going to be great for security because someone at the end of the day could just come up to that, cut that tonneau cover open, and then grab whatever they want. With this, they can't do that. The only way they can get to or underneath your bed is by actually opening up the tailgate. Once we open up the tailgate, that's going to reveal some levers that we can actually pull and use to actually operate this. They're really easy to use. They're going to be located right here. You can squeeze this from either side, so if you're in a situation where you can't access your driver or your passenger side, you can just go over to the other side. And you're going to notice for each section we actually have to pull that lever again, fold it up until it gets all the way near our bulkhead. Now you probably also will notice that we do still take up a decent amount of our bed. I can still reach underneath here and grab most of what I need, but if you are looking for something that's really going to accommodate all the space that we could save, then I'd recommend checking out two types. I'd either recommend checking out a tri-fold-up tonneau cover that has the ability to fold all the way up against our cab. Now the drawback to that is it's going to cover up our back window, so you won't be able to see out of it. And if that's an issue for you, then I'd recommend checking out those soft roll-up tonneau covers because they can actually roll it pretty tight since they are soft and they don't take up a whole lot of bed space either. And the way this is going to secure down is going to have this buckle. You can actually pull that if you find that it's not tight enough, make your adjustments, and this is going to secure it in place. And right next to that, you're going to find that we have this weather strip that covers the bulkhead side of our tonneau cover. You're going to have one that covers the tailgate side too. We're also going to have this area that's protected on the side. We have some rubber here. And on the tonneau cover itself, we're going to have these strips that lay underneath it. So that's going to help keep a lot of water from entering inside your bed. Now, no tonneau cover is completely waterproof. You're always probably going to get just a little bit of water coming in. But if you find a spot that is still getting a lot of water entering in, this kit does come with some butyl tape. And that butyl tape, you can just put in any big gaps you see and make sure you don't have a ton of water coming in from that section. Let's get a few measurements just to see how this is going to look back here. So for right now, let's see how high it sits up in that folded up position. That's going to sit at a little bit under 4.5 inches. Isn't too high. It is something to think about when you are looking out your back window. You're definitely going to notice it. Now, with this all the way folded out, it is only going to stick up by 1 inch, so it won't have a super clean finish like some other options, but it's not too bad either. Now let's get the distance underneath the tonneau cover. That's going to be important because it's going to allow you to know what you can fit underneath here and have secured. That's going to be about 19.5 inches. Also not too bad, just make sure you know what can fit underneath there. And if you do run into any situations where you need the back open, you still can store items underneath this back area. But talking about that back area, let's see how far it sticks out. This panel is going to be a little bit over 16 inches. So in most cases, that doesn't take up a whole lot of space. Now this is a shorter bed, so you're probably going to notice it in some instances. So what you actually can do is remove the tonneau cover itself. It's not too bad. It's just being held in place by 4 bolts. And unlike some other ones, that are pretty tight to unthread, this one was actually pretty easy. And it will be a little bit tedious, but if you really need that extra space for a day or two to help someone move, and then when you're done helping them move, you can throw this back on. Honestly, I don't think that's too bad. And talking about how everything's attached, this will actually use the track systems on your Tacoma. And at first I thought it was a little tricky, but working with it a bit, actually I don't think this is too bad. And this really does give us more of a clean finish and allows us to make adjustments a little bit better too. And what I do like about it is, yes, we do have to use some tools. You'll use some Allen keys that come included with your kit, but we won't have to do any drilling at all. As far as unfolding it too, it's actually pretty smooth. Now, there's a couple things you need to be aware of. When you close it, try to make sure that it is clamping into place. And since it is a little bit heavier, try to make sure that your fingers don't stay underneath because you don't want to smash them. But that extra heft is going to go into the sturdiness of this tonneau cover because this is also going to have a weight capacity of up to 200 pounds. So maybe when you are pulling some tools out of here, you need to set something on top of here. That's going to be completely fine. Just make sure it's not too terribly heavy, anything like your basic tools. Now, in my opinion, I think this is a great tonneau cover if you are just looking for that extra protection in the back of your bed. Now, if you're wanting to really maximize the amount of space you can get out of your bed and you don't need that extra security, then I'd recommend just a regular soft roll-up tonneau cover because that's not going to be able to really roll up close to your cab. But if you do need that extra security, then I think this is great, especially if you are looking for something more on the entry-level side, because this really does clear all the basics. Now, as far as the installation goes, we did run into a few issues, mainly with those clamps because the instructions can be a little bit vague. But once we were able to figure out what they were saying, it was a lot more smooth. Now, if you're also having issues trying to interpreting what the instructions are saying, just stay tuned and we'll walk you through the process. To start off the installation, we're going to lay everything out, and I kind of recommend laying everything out to their relative sides, just to keep things a little bit more organized. And then we're going to grab our rails. This is what we're going to start with. You need to make sure you grab the correct one for the correct side. So this right here says left, so we're going to put this on our left side. In my case, that is the driver's side. And the way we just put this into place is just by pushing on here. And I'm going to try to push this all the way back so this bracket is up against near where our bulkhead is. Just like that. Now, if we do run into any fitment issues later on, what we can do is just slide this whole thing back. But for right now, we're going to keep it even on both sides. Now we need those rails to stay in place, and we're going to do this with this clamp. Now this is going to come in pieces. The way you're going to put this together, though, is this is going to be the section that grabs onto your tonneau cover rails. This is going to be a plate that goes in between. We're going to use this hole right here that is not threaded. And then we're going to have this final piece that's going to back behind this, and this is going to go inside of your track system. This is all going to be held in place by this bolt that goes through. And actually, I'm going to flip that plate around because we want the taller section to be facing up. So this is what it's roughly going to look like. So let's try this out now. Now I already installed the other two clamps, but I'll show you how to do the last one. And this is going to get a lot easier when you do the last one because the other two are going to be holding it up in place. So we're going to start by removing this cap to your rails or your tracks. And then we're going to grab this backing piece to our bracket or clamp. And we're going to slide it in just like this. It should extend like it is right now and grab hold. I'm going to push it a little bit past this opening right here. Leave it there for a moment. And now I'm going to grab the front part of this clamp. And at the top, we're going to have these indentions. These are going to grab onto our tonneau cover rails. Just slide it up through this opening and roughly align it in place. Then we're going to grab this plate. Like I said earlier, we want to use this hole, and I'm actually going to flip this around because the way this works is it's going to go in between this clamp and behind our tonneau cover rails. It's going to slide in there, apply pressure to the top, and this is all going to be held in place by this bolt, which will go through there, and then we're going to try to thread this on with that backing. Now you might have to push things a little bit. It's probably the trickiest part of this whole process, is just trying to get everything aligned. You just work with it a bit, you'll finally get it. Now that it's grabbed on, I'm going to grab our Allen key and tighten it into place. Now the reason why I oriented my clamps like this is just so we're getting even pressure to this rail, so it's going to be a good fit overall. Now you might be wondering about this last clamp that's closest to our tailgate, why I didn't push it a little bit closer to the end. And the answer is because we have this end cap, and if I put this into place, this is actually going to get in the way of us putting this clamp here. I also don't want to put it in front of that opening because it's not going to be structurally sound, so this was the next best spot. Now, you're also going to have this supporting bracket here, and the place we're going to put this is near our bulkhead side. We want to put this in between these two clamps at the very end, and we just kind of roughly want it roughly in the center, and we want to make sure that the higher point is facing up. We can finally put our tonneau cover in place. Now, you want to make sure that these buckles are facing towards our bulkhead or our cab. Once we've established that, you can grab a friend and roughly place this where you need it to be, or you can't do it yourself. Just be careful you don't scratch nothing up. We're just gonna lightly lay it down. And if we need to make any adjustments, we can do that afterwards. Now let's actually test how this is gonna look on the bed. So I unbuckled the other side. I'm gonna do the same thing over here too. With that done, we're gonna try to just unfold this, making sure everything is aligned, is working properly. And I wouldn't expect it to really grab on quite yet. I'm gonna move this out of our way so it's not distracting. But the biggest thing I'm looking for is just seeing how our tailgate shuts. And right now, as you saw, it popped up a bit. So I'm probably gonna have to just shift this back just a tad bit. Just walk in the back some. That feels pretty good. Try this again. And right now I'm feeling kind of grab on a bit more. That's a good sign. I'm gonna try it again. That feels a lot better. Now this next part is gonna be a little tricky. So what we're gonna be doing is securing the back part of this tonneau cover to your bed. So if we look up here, we're gonna have this bolt that's hiding up here. This is actually gonna extend out just like that. And what we're trying to do is to put this spacer through here, and what's gonna happen is we're gonna lower this down, and that bolt's gonna go through that bracket. Now this is a little bit tricky to do like this, and I recommend doing both sides at the same time. And what you might have to do is get underneath the tonneau cover itself. That's probably what I'm gonna do. And if you do choose to get underneath your tonneau cover, this may be a great point to really fix any of this weather strip that's caught up underneath here. This is going to allow this to sit a lot more flush on top of your bed. You can kind of pull down on that. Now we're getting a great fit. We're eventually going to come over to this point where that bolt's sticking out, and we're going to have a few things to put on top of it. So we're going to have this wing nut, we're going to have this end cap, and then we're going to have this knob. Now I'm going to start with the knob and tighten it on here. Now this is going to be a little bit awkward with us being underneath, but compared to some other tonneau covers that I've put on like this is actually a great spot, because typically these knobs will run into the side of your bed but I'm not having that issue today, making this install process a lot easier. We're just going to tighten that down until it feels pretty secure. I'll keep going. After when this feels secure, I'm going to grab this wing nut and I'm going to thread that all the way down too. Now these wing nuts can be a little bit tricky to get on here, but just work with it a bit. It'll eventually get on. With that wing nut backed all the way down, then I'm going to grab the end cap, and this won't thread all the way in place, so we'll just cover the very end of that bolt, securing right there. After when that's done, we're going to repeat this process on the other side. We're going to find this secondary bracket that we put on earlier. What we want to do is try to align this to this threaded area. Once we've done that, we're just going to grab a hand knob that comes with your kit, thread it into place. Once this is complete, then you can repeat that on the other side. Now let's check our work. We're just going to unfold this again. Make sure everything clamps down properly. It's unfolding pretty smooth. That's looking pretty good. That's good. Making sure everything is latched properly. It looks good. And now the final test. Make sure that tailgate shuts. And we all look pretty good in that respect. But let's say you did run into issues. So a few things you might want to do is just kind of play around with the placement of your tonneau cover. You either might have to push it back some or pull it forward some, just depending on how it's interacting with your tailgate. That's pretty easy to do. You just have to go over to those 4 clamps that we installed earlier that connected the tonneau cover to your tonneau cover rails. Loosen them up, either slide forward or back some, and then test it out again. But once you have it fixed, you can take it out for a ride. That was just a look at the eTrailer hard folding tonneau cover on our 2022 Toyota Tacoma. I'm Matt. Thanks for watching.